Hello friends, this is Prashant A U, your strategy consultant and mentor. Uh, I hope you guys enjoyed part one in this product management series where we are covering the 5 stages of design thinking. Welcome to part two. In part one, uh, I have run through the entire content of this program. Uh, we covered a brief background of design thinking in order to understand the basic concept or the core concept involved uh, in this method. Now, as you can see on your screen, the contents are listed, and what we're going to cover in part 2 is why do we need design thinking, advantages of design thinking, and we'll have an overview of the design thinking model. Now that you have understood the basic concept of design thinking, it leads to the next question. Why do we need design thinking in the first place? And the straightforward and simple answer to that is irrespective of the product, design has to be human centric. So, design thinking must be applied end to end to any product in your product development process. That's the purpose of using this particular method. Uh, Let us now have a look at what is the actual need for design thinking. You can see on your screens the classic case of the elephant and the blind man. Probably every one of us have heard this particular story where a few blind men, uh, obviously they can't see anything, try to explore what is in front of them. And depending on the part of the elephant that they can touch and feel, each one gives a different opinion or presents a different perspective. Some say that it's a fan looking at its ears, some say it's a spear uh, while touching the ivory tusk, uh, some say it's a snake, some say it's a tree, somebody says it's a wall, and somebody says it's a wall, depending on which part of the elephant they have touched. Now, when it comes to product development and design, uh, we are also often faced with such kind of conundrums. Every person on the team would have their own perspective and opinion. And mind you, here we are not talking about what is right and what is wrong. It's just that each of us as an individual has a different perspective on everything that is in front of us. Uh, to give you a more logical perspective, what you can see on your screen right now uh, is a gearbox. Now, when we look at the design of any product, in the case of product development, uh, one thing that needs to be ensured that it is human centric. Every design has to be human centric, because end of the day, whatever products, things or tools that we use are being used by whom? By us humans. So every design has to be human centric. And when you look at the gearbox, what would a system model describe about it? Uh, I know how the drivetrain works, but not how people drive their cars. Now, that's the perspective of a technician or an engineer who is probably designing uh, the gearbox from the technical perspective. Now, when we look at the interaction model, I'm a great driver but have no idea how a car works. Now, that's from the layman or the user perspective. You may be a very good driver, but you may have no idea how what is the functioning of a gearbox. Now, as a designer, when you are trying to develop a product, you need to combine both the perspectives together, the user perspective as well as the engineer perspective. And when you combine both, then and only then you can deliver a product which is complete in all terms. And that is what is meant by human centric design when you apply design thinking in your product development process. If we look at the human-centric design while applying design thinking, what we'll realize is that different people have different perspectives. People don't have time to read. Humans have poor memory, humans err, they can do mistakes, humans learn over a time. That's why we call that something called as learning curve. Human body has inherent weaknesses and limitations. Humans understand metaphors, and humans uh, can recognize patterns much better than any machine. That's called inductive reasoning. And overt information processing rate, that is numerical, arithmetic, or mechanical operations and calculations, in humans is relatively low as compared to machines. That's why we are seeing the emergence of artificial intelligence. Uh, Now, if mental model matches closely with the actual behavior of the device or the interface, then people can make accurate predictions, take correct decisions, and choose appropriate actions. Uh, Now, if you look at or try to remember the first time ever that you had access to a smartphone, how easy or how difficult was it to learn to operate the smartphone, and how you have learned uh, how to operate this particular device over a period of time. Now that's how humans learn, and that is what makes a difference, and you need to consider this part while designing or developing any product. So far so good. So now let's have a look at the advantages of design thinking. Now, as professionals in your respective domains, you might have heard of different tools apart from design thinking, like lean concept, agile, as well as waterfall. Uh, there is a comparative table on your screen right now. This is not meant to argue as to which tool or method is better than the other, but you can have a brief look at the advantages of design thinking. Uh, it it's a user-centered process that starts with user data. It addresses real needs of a user and not imaginary ones. Uh, it's solution-oriented instead of problem-oriented. Leverages collective expertise and establishes a shared language. Encourages innovation by exploring multiple avenues for the same problem, is flexible and can adapt to your needs, is scalable and allows you to think bigger. Now, these are the brief advantages, and you will realize the benefits of design thinking only when you use it as a tool in your product development and design process. Now, let me introduce you to the design thinking model. As you can see on your screen right now, uh, design thinking typically consists of 5 stages, but you can summarize it into 3 groups, beginning with the process of understanding, which is about gathering knowledge about the user's characteristics, innovative opportunities, and ideas. That is gathering the user data. uh, the next stage is define, which is also part of understanding, because you need to define what you've gathered, because whatever information is gathered has to be turned into knowledge. That is what defining is all about. Once you understand the requirements, you move on to explore, and exploring is all about gathering feedback, prioritizing ideas, and generating prototypes, which basically covers the ideate and the prototyping stage of design thinking. And once you have explored all the possibilities, you move on to actually materialize or bring the product out in the open, which is basically the test stage, where you test the optimized version of the product. It's not just the minimum viable product, but the optimized version of the product. So, design thinking, these 5 stages can be grouped into 3 different phases of understand, explore, and materialize. Now, let's have a look at the different stages of design thinking. Uh, there are 5 stages as explained earlier. The first one is empathize. And empathize is all about to be able to understand and share the feelings of another. That is basically about putting yourself in the customer's or the user's shoes. The second stage is define, which actually means to synthesize your findings and insights into an actionable problem statement, because unless you define the problem, you wouldn't be able to deliver the right solution or arrive at the right solution. The third stage is ideate, which is about to aim to generate radical design alternatives. Because mind you, every problem has more than one solution, and it is always good to explore all the possible and feasible alternatives to any problem. The fourth stage is prototype, which is about turning ideas and explorations into real, tangible solutions. This is the stage where most of the requirements, the conceptualization, and the ingredients needed to deliver the product have been finalized, and then you are actually delivering a pilot model of the product, a pilot version of the product. And last but not the least, the last stage is about testing, which is basically about gathering feedback, refining solutions, and learning more about the users. That is, to see whether whatever prototype or the pilot that you have released, does it meet with the user needs, and to also analyze if are we missing something out. So that brings us to the end of part 2 in this series of product management, specifically the 5 stages of design thinking. What we have covered today is the design thinking model. Why do we need design thinking, and what are the benefits or advantages of design thinking? Going ahead in part 3, we'll be actually covering each stage of design thinking, and at the end of it, we'll also focus on a few case studies. Stay tuned till then. Take care. Bye.